Good morning. What the hell happened? Come on. All right. Everybody knows what happened yesterday. What a whipsaw. Not unusual, but that was a pretty damn big one. And we got these big, nasty green bars and weekly sell setups now, which was expected to come. Right? We didn't know how it would happen, but we knew we were getting into the area. Um, there was that maybe it could have got up to toward 400 or so. Obviously, didn't happen. And so we'll see where we will be by the end of the day tomorrow. But right now we've got this move up on the weekly and this big red bar. And by the end of the week, is it a bigger red bar or is it a bottoming tail bar? The latter is highly unlikely. Right? Can't imagine what could possibly change after yesterday. And either way, you can see interest rates appear green. I haven't looked at those charts yet, but we've got buy setups there. I pointed out that they were potentially going to form since they were in uptrends. It was pretty whippy, news and all that. And they did form. And now I'll go through them when I get there. So now we've got the big reversal, the spiders. They're extended short term. However, there was a big drop throughout the afternoon and it took out 380, 3,800 on SPX and opened up the door to this void below. So there's nothing to stop this, from getting down here to 340, 364. Ultimately, it should get down there and lower. How it gets down there with jiggles, who knows? But look, I can see there's a little bit of support right where it is over here, a little bit, but it really isn't much compared to a reversal like that. So ultimately, while we might have some jiggles up and down, I think it's got to get down here before any buyers come in and, seriously want to give it a shot. The 20 MA, where are we relative to the 20? We're below the 20 MA. We're just slightly below. Sometimes, give or take, and notice on the hourly chart that lines up with minor support, those highs prior to the left of what's there. And it's a great example of why minor support is subjective. Because first of all, you're going beyond what's directly to the left. Right? It's here, say, look to the left, right? So looking to the left, there's nothing here. But it does line up with that pivot high. And while that's not marked a pivot, common sense tells us that little poke up there, it's a pivot in a smaller time frame. And so that was retesting. Right? At that point, it went down and then took it out, with the rally up, the Apple news, and so on and so forth. So now there's nothing to stop it from going down. So bearish bias, longer term bearish bias, which has been in effect for quite a while. But at this point, until it gets down here, and if it drops down there quickly, I'd be surprised to see if it did that today, maybe by tomorrow. But that's where longs are going to want to get more aggressive since that pivot low is there. It's pretty far away. I'm just kind of curious percentage wise where that is relative to that's about a 6% drop from that particular high. And from the August high, just to see for now, that isn't the high of the year. The August high down to there will be about 14% or so, as you can see. So you remember a couple of years ago, 3 to 5% moves were huge buying opportunities. Now we're getting those kind of moves on a daily basis at times. So the world has changed dramatically. All right, so that's where we're at, gapping down below the 20, minor support, maybe because it's extended, this short-term gap might create a bounce. And we'll see what things look like on the futures. If there's any support there overnight. Nothing. And so here is that momentum move down. This type of, you could call it a buy setup, some money climactic. They're at that pivot where buyers are going to show up. You know, a year ago, a year and a half ago, something like this could have resulted in a move back up. That was a bull market, and it's not a bull market anymore. But I'll say historically, this kind of a momentum move rarely goes back up. Now, yesterday morning was kind of insane, right? Like here, but it was the momentum move. And then it made, the next move down. Point being, almost every time you get something like this, you get a next move down until, it gets to some support and the momentum begins to slow. So this looks like maybe it can get down there today, because who wants to step in front of this thing, other than for momentary scalps? And you can see the 5-minute is just trending down, and creates some pivots and down again. So down here, 36.63, give it a take, 36.50, whatever. That's where buyers are that's where it's going to be safe, where higher probabilities, right? Safe is relative to your money management. But a higher probability area would be down here, especially if it falls quickly down there, that you're going to get a bounce, because falling fast creates voids right here. Yeah, so let's get to SPX. And you got this pivot down there. And I've got this area marked off in green. And I had marked the 20 MA as maybe, right? But we're below, slightly below that. And there's nothing to stop it. And now, so we've got this pivot area down here at 36.50. And I know that lines up with a big open interest in the monthly expiration, which is a couple of weeks away. Nonetheless, it should provide an area where prices will bounce from. Just price-wise, if it falls quickly down there, open interest-wise. So we've got a combination of concepts coming together in an area. 37.25. I don't think that'll do anything. 3,700 maybe is a whole number, but there are different things, and then you've got those that connect dots and put fib lines, and they draw trend lines, and then they redraw trend lines, and some of the real esoteric insanity. They start drawing shit like, excuse my language, shit like this over the tops pointing down and thinking that's a line. But, they typically, then they get something like this, and who knows what else that they draw from it. Eventually some line somewhere catches up with whatever's to the left. So that's the insanity that this business of trading and technical analysis revolves around. And at some point, hopefully in my lifetime, looking to the left catches on, because I've been saying it for 25 years, and students say it. Those that work for other companies or have education companies that were students or employees, they say it. Use the technical analysis term. Well, it is technical analysis, so there's hocus pocus technical analysis, and there's technical analysis based on what's real. Support and resistance created with money, right? That's what it is. Yeah, that's cool, Joe. So that's this area is going to be a big level down here. So 36.40 has juice. The markets drop, at the open, which looks like they're going to. You could probably go down a little further, and things will be fine. And you know what? As wild as yesterday's was, it never got close to hitting our numbers. And Dan's been like 100% on his credit spreads and naked stuff with earnings. And we've been 100% for a long time with SPX levels. And I mean, something crazy could happen today, but well, and 38.10, that's kind of close, but considering things are down here, I think that could be fine. So I don't know if things are dropping. 38.10 might not be. I'd have to go back and look, but in any event, now it's 75 by 85. 3,800 is going to be a pretty tough number to get above. Right. All right. Other markets. Qs, I think, look, the size of that bar, it's got to make new lows. I just can't imagine. Well, I can imagine, of course, the mind can do crazy stuff, but I got my alert down here. Now there's nothing to the left, but kind of like a measured move. Ultimately, it could get lower than that, but it certainly looks like it's going to get through last month's low. And that's just an alert to say, hey, Greg, it's at like a level close to this 10,000. So maybe, I've got an alert down there, and whenever it goes off, it goes off. I don't know if it'll come all the way down to this low. Nobody does, but the way prices went up in 2020, this was the support area. And that's where it held last month, that area. And if this fails, there's nothing to stop it. Now, what could stop it? Well, another market. And so, I've got this area marked off down here on SPX. Let's drag this out of the way. These overlapping bars here. So, coming down here somewhere maybe around 3,300 or so, ultimately coming down there, SPX gets down there. And so that could save the Qs. And, the video I did last night, if you saw it, ultimately it's going to come down to, interest rates. So this is gapping above here. Of course, the market's going down. And as long as this keeps going up, let's go back to a weekly chart. Consolidating, but this keeps going up, and the dollar keeps going up. The markets are going to go down. That's the environment that we're in. So with everything that we could look at and talk about and have opinions about at this period of time in history, it's about the dollar and interest rates. And so throw your indicators in the garbage anyway. But what you need to do is look at this and see, trading range, things loses momentum, the market stabilizes. Look, this was last night, the video. And so I was just pointing out how they move inverse from each other. You got SPY and you got the 10-year, and whether you will look at the 5-year. I mean, with everything we could possibly look at, this is what the world is focused on right now. QQQs. Well, it's down at this pivot. Well, it's probably below the pivot. Well, slightly below the pivot. So look, down here, and I believe it's going to go below there. Right? Look, left, resistance, support, trading range. It had the potential to get up above here, down up to the next pivot. That didn't work. Sideways, break below. It's down below this pivot, well below right now. So the bottom of this bar, this close, anyway, you can see here 260. It's got some support, which is not far. It's not far from there. So, that area right there is where I would set an alert and see what happens today when, if it gets there. But ultimately, it looks like it's got to go lower. It couldn't rally that far. Dan and I, we've done MT Lives on retracements, and it's not about Fibonacci. It's about just measuring strength or the lack thereof. So when prices get extended and they create a void, now this is a pivot in a smaller time frame, right? There you can see it where it lines up. And so if we look from here's where the move started, here's where it ended. if we just say, hey, if this thing can get 50% or so, that's typically where sellers are going to show up. And does it line up with support or resistance? However, if this would have rallied up to here, 100% retracement, everything begins to change as far as from bearish to neutral to somewhat bullish. It didn't happen. You know, it really all comes down to common sense, but you have to have a method based on common sense. If your method is based on Elliott wave and Gann and indicators, you're just going to be down the rabbit hole for the rest of your life or until you run out of money. YM was the strongest, right? Starting to pull back, and see that retracement. So will this make new lows? I don't know, but there's a much lower probability than the Qs. This is coming down. It's on support for now. The Russell, that was showing strength. And you can see this took out the highs. So if anything is going to hold above these lows, it's going to be the Russell and the Dow. Now this, so far, it's still holding up. Buyers should want to step up here, somewhere here. We'll keep an eye on this. If it breaks below here, all those that were excited here, and I don't blame them for being excited, and with that bottoming tail bar, other than the news that played havoc here, that was a pattern for it to go up. And that's why we have to pay attention to news, even as technical traders. And then it just took out the high and got knocked back down. Creates a lot of uncertainty. This has got to, right? It's got to be going down with the dollar going up. Still trading range. Gold's got to be going down. It's breaking lower. I hear you, Alex. We look at what has shown relative strength, and it creates a belief that can continue until it doesn't. So if we want to go pick on the weaker, we know what the weaker is. Rob, I had things change, but I had 38.10 and 36.40. If the markets continue to drop, you can get below 36.40. Let's see, I'll look at the transports here. Of course, they're going down. So, was it CCL? What led the way up? They're going to be vulnerable. Right? So this, airlines, cruise lines, everything going to be vulnerable. But look at now we're getting a weekly sell setup. So again, credit spreads, some directionals to the downside now. All yours, Dan.
All right, good morning. I was just adjusting an alert here. RW. All right, we'll start with the credit spreads that we did, earnings, and so a couple ugly gaps, a lot of ugly gaps on earnings. So yeah, the ones that I'm going to be focused on here, we did 4 into earnings. No, extra. We just did a short. That's what I was adjusting the stop on. Let's cover half over 5-minute high. We did Roku. They just had amazingly jacked juice, and it paid off for the longs. The long put buyers, that is. We're short the 41.5s. So we still have $3 of cushion. So I'll be monitoring to see what the price is within the first 5 minutes. Qualcomm, we did a condor. We did the 103s and the 1 1/4s. Big gap down. And that's going to be hurting, obviously, the semis today. And so this one's, we took in 70 cents, and it's only $3 wide. And it's tight. And we only have $1.35 of cushion. But for 1 day to expiration with 70 cents on a $3 wide, I'm hoping we get a small bounce and we're able to get out on a profit. I'll be watching that, of course. Charlie India, we actually did a call spread, climactic sell setup. This is a bullish pattern, but it's a buy on a pullback. But we have climbos daily, weekly, monthly. So we sold the 330s. Also, I'll be monitoring that. And finally, ALB, which shorted the 310 nakeds. So with the gap down, I'm bidding a dime to try to get out. Actually, so here's ALB. I don't know if I posted it here because this is still has 2 weeks to expiration. All right, ton of earnings here. Let's just plow through them. RCL was up this morning, and then now it's down. It's a big ugly gap down here near the 50. Nothing to do with it though. But yeah, that's going to be dragging the competitors, obviously. Piton, just this thing, I think, unless they get bought out, I'm not sure if they're going to make it. Nothing to do with it now, though. Gapping right in the middle of here. 121, that's a nasty gap, but near a prior low. We'll come back to it. Tango Charlie, I don't see it gapping. P4, nothing to do. Subtish, 50, that's a big gap. That's a monster gap, but nothing to do with it. I mean, the open's going to be tough here, but like as with Greg, I'm fully bearish here myself. And you know, typically I like waiting an hour for the day following, but yesterday was so bearish that we could have started selling call spreads over, as Greg said, going out to next week. This is very bearish. So I had full intent, if we open flat or whatever, is to hopefully get a bounce that didn't go a third into this range and start shorting. Oh, we actually do have we're long calls on the VXX, which did not budge yesterday. Surprised me. This is gapping to this prior low. We'll come back. Well, it closed nice, so we should have a nice open profit at the open, but you know, I was hoping we get a big gain. Yeah, Powerball, yeah, it's 1.5 now. Yeah, that's what the news said because nobody won last night. WWE, I can't tell where it's gapping, but it's around the top. Climo on the weekly. This, I don't see any volume, but if it is gapping here, then that's a gap breakdown, bearish daily, weekly, monthly. Lumina, that looks like that stock's in trouble with that gap down. Equus, no prints, but don't like the pattern. It's kind of a big bear flag. And Warren, I don't like the way it trades. QDEL, I don't see a gap, but no pattern anyway. ABC, nothing to do with it. Hood, Robinhood. You know, I said the month to look at the weekly here. It's on my 4-long watch list. Maybe it'll set up in the next couple of days here. It could be getting close, but you got to give it a big stop under this prior low. LNC. That's an ugly. Oh, wow, that's an ugly gap. Insurance company. Man, let's see this one. Let's say hypothetically I sold the 44 puts, then I would have a major problem on my hands right now. And that's what I kept telling people. We will be taking a loss. It's a mathematical fact. if you're gonna be selling options into earnings, it's gonna happen. We've just been on a good streak and we're 28 for 28 so far this season. Met was another Climo gapping down a little bit. So that 30-minute low, that's a call spread. This gapped up. Oh, run. Here's another one I forgot about actually. Run. Because we entered this one a while back, but this was also an earnings trade that we held. So here I gave you all this. Posted it in Telegram already. So we actually have 5. We got 5 credit spreads today that we got to manage. Allstate, I can't tell where it's gapping, but this is a bit under yesterday's low. Beautiful call spread. This is what we call a sell setup with a monster turn with the converging MAs. That looks horrible. I can actually put that in a window. RSI, no pattern, piece of junk. RLJ, no pattern, but looks lower. Pop up kilos, a hotel. Looks like it's opening flat, no pattern. HST shows it opening up a dime, no pattern. Etsy, maybe day trade, 30-minute high. I don't know, we'll come back. ELF, wow. That's a gap breakout. It's a shock pattern gapping over all this. That could be a put spread idea. D-Dog. I don't know. That's a nasty pattern and an upside shakeout. I don't know. I need more data. Crocs, the ugly shoe company, gapping up, but no pattern. 30-minute high though. This actually is a condor. Selling out of money call spread, out of the money put spread, 65 or lower. But I wanted to take out the 30-minute high first to prove that, you know, this gap up's not going to sell off. Tandem's another monster gap down. But I think Tandem, yeah, diabetes, so that's a drug company. Costco, Greg mentioned yesterday. Let's check that out for a call spread. All right, EPAM. All right, so I'm curious what these premiums are going to be. All right, Roku is not open yet. Qualcomm. Oh, I had. Oh shoot! See, I had. All right, CI. I just got out at a profit. I filled my. And we have a profit on Roku, but it's spready. So I'm going to try to get out, break even on that. Qualcomm is 97 cents. So even with that monster gap, it's only 27 cents against us. I just got out of Roku break even.